Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first podcast in 2026, which is why Kim's letting me do this for the first time. And this is the last time, too, by the way. So I'm happy to be here with my beloved daughter, Kimberly, as she is going to talk with us about new products, new services, and getting not just ready for 2026. That's certainly very important, but a mindset that should be with us throughout the business's life. And there's some interesting information, in my opinion, to cover. And I may have some things to say, but for the most part, Kim's going to talk about the creation and how to make it all work. So, Kim, please educate me.
It's nothing that you don't know, but I appreciate the thought. And that was fun having you do our introduction for today. So thanks for humoring me as we entered into the new year and new year, new start. I'm sure everybody makes their New Year resolutions. I actually don't make New Year resolutions.
Nope,
I try to improve myself throughout the year, so I don't wait to the new year to do something like that.
I don't do that either.
I don't. But a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And we're with that thought, we are closing out. This will be our last episode specifically to the planning for 2026 with confidence. Because if you haven't already started planning, you're in 2026 and you're a little late. So we'll be closing out our thoughts. And as Dad mentioned, we're going to be talking about creating what's new services that sell. I actually just plan to be very succinct on this subject, and if folks have questions, they can reach out to you or I on it. In terms of what are the top 3 points or top 4 points to be made, it's starting with listening to your customers. In my mind, it's what are they telling you that they need and that you aren't providing, but you could be providing? What are their pain points that you're not alleviating, but that it makes sense? There's logical connection between that and what you're already doing. But with that, I want to add a very important point of it's not just one or two customers.
Oh,
um, it has to be a large customer base is all voicing the same thoughts to you. You have to use sample sizes and all of that to make sure that it makes sense for the business as a whole and not just pleasing a handful of customers. Um, Another thing that comes to mind is identifying any gaps in your product roadmap. If you are, say, a service-based business and you go from $10 type book or something all the way up to a $30,000 product or service offering, consider looking what could be a mid-tier step. Because otherwise you're just going to have low volume of clients, and it's going to take a lot longer in nurturing your audience and your database before they are warm enough to want to make that big of an investment. Most often, might not apply to your business. You might work with high net worth individuals, and therefore 30,000 doesn't seem like as big a price tag for them. But it's just a word of advice is just to review your product roadmap associated to your pain points and the pricing tiers and see if there's any opportunity to insert some mid-tier or even the next premium tier above what it is that you are currently doing. And then the next point in my succinct thought process is just doing an ROI analysis. Just because it could be a good idea, just because your customer base is saying that they would love this, and just because you can make some more money off of it, it doesn't mean that you're going to get the return on that investment within a period in time where you could have applied that cash or time and intention to some other portion of the business that might need it that particular time. And that goes back to where are you in the business cycle? What does your cash flow look like right now? How healthy are your financials? How skilled are your team? Could you apply that to training up your team and get similar sales results by having stronger personnel on the team? So just taking your time to thoughtfully go through that ROI process.
And if I may, that is certainly key. I would add in another question to ask yourself, can I do this not only competitively, but better than the folks that are out there? So otherwise, I'm just going to join a crowded field. So what would be the point? It may be a gap, uh, but is there a different way to bridge it, or is it even worth going into those waters? It's just so crowded. Just let them have the grapes. We'll sell watermelons. That kind of thing. It's just. Uh, I think we often forget that, and we have to be able to do it better, or there's not much point into it, or less expensive, but I prefer better.
Or,
Uh,
and maybe just using the word different. I had it further on in
ah,
my notes over here as like position for differentiation. So can you position yourself for differentiation?
yeah, I like that. And can you talk for a minute about this is something that I know we're both interested in. There's marketing's got the front and the back, and one brings the product to market, the other one figures out what the market is. I'm not sure if that's the back one or not. But a lot of people think of marketing as just, get the product out there and make people buy it, as opposed to product development or service development back here. Um, and balance that off for me, or for our listeners, if you would, against um, the engineers, or the pros who are actually delivering the thing. Do they know the customer as well? Should they be the ones designing it, for technical improvement and so forth? Because I think companies get lost in that. How do I know? The engineers say we can do it better, but that doesn't mean that somebody wants to buy it, right?
Yeah, it absolutely does not mean that somebody wants to buy it. I think it's great data, it's great information. So engineers, your sales staff. So when we were talking about listening to what your customers needs, those voices are coming from, say, your engineers, or those voices can come from your sales staff. And so listening to that and incorporating it into your thought process is important. But so I wouldn't disregard what you're being told by other people that are have intimately involved with the business and the services or the products. But the product development is a very different skill set than somebody that is good at promoting it necessarily. So it doesn't mean that one person can't be good at both, but oftentimes they are two very different marketing roles where you'll have somebody that has a background in, say, market research. And then you'll have somebody that has more of a background in design, or digital strategy. So it's not as common to get, unless you start getting a very more highly experienced person, your mid-tier marketing person walking in the door isn't going to be just naturally good at both things. So you are right, like kind of like back end, front end, and then but it all does live under that department umbrella of marketing.
Okay. So listen to folks and take all the input. But to me, and I think you said this, is the important thing is, does the market want this? Or if they don't know it, can we create a demand for this in the marketplace? Because we've listened and we've heard, and there's enough chatter or complaints or whatever that we know this is a place to go. I'm thinking Blue Ocean. I did not like the book. I know it's very popular, but I did some research on the book. Because it was something we read in the company, and it was like, you can go out into the blue water where nobody's there and start something, and it's fresh, and it's, you'll kill it, and all the rest of that. My research showed that most people that tried it failed. There's a reason there's nobody there. The
Ah.
book didn't bring that up. It said envision and go, as opposed to find out why nobody's doing that. There is no market for it, or it's cost prohibitive or whatever. So you got to make sure you do that work, right? And
Yes.
rip and throw away your copy of Blue Ocean. It's got to be much more methodical than.
Yeah, validate before building, and testing the market, and all of that. You don't have to put you don't have to build the whole boat, at that one time. So validation is definitely key.
I love that validate and such, because in Jim Collins' book, uh, how businesses fail, companies fall in love with a new product or service, right? The CEO and senior staff, they just think this is the best thing ever. So resources, and they're thinking they're all focused on it. There's meetings on it. Meanwhile, it's called the flywheel. The basis of the business, which keeps generating the cash that keeps this thing going, is getting ignored. And
Hmm.
so it starts developing a noise in the engine. It starts, wandering a little, and next thing you know, they put all their time and attention on this new, and forgotten that what sustains the business needs maintenance. And you got to be very careful about that. And I think it's so easy to fall in love with the new and the shiny because you're bored with making screws. Let's go out and make something else, and you forget what got you there.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And I hope the listeners really take that to heart because it is so easy to do and do it without even realizing that you're doing it. So having that conscious thought as you start working on something new is very important.
Yeah, I thank you. In Dave Wharton's book, Evergreen, he brings out that a lot of evergreen companies, when they have a new idea, it's got to be profitable real soon.
Mm.
And it builds upon itself and generates money to continue the process. Because if it's not profitable soon, unless you're a big company, and we're talking about small to medium size, so maybe 50 million down or something like that. You don't have 100 million to throw into this and to run with it for a long time, waiting for it to catch on. You're not Apple, so you got to develop it and make sure that it is catching on in incremental steps, as so that you don't drown in your own vision.
Yep. Yep. Agreed. Um, all right, so just being mindful of our time in the episode, some key points that we've made so far, the validation, making sure to listen to the marketplace and what that's telling you instead of what you think is best for them. Completing the ROI analysis, position for differentiation. Um, Other summary thoughts that you want to mention on this designing new products conversation before we kind of just summarize and close out our full planning for 2026 with confidence series?
Um, yes. And I just want to reiterate what's been said. You should always be looking. You should sitting there stagnant is not a good idea. You need to continually be looking at the marketplace. And at the same time, make sure you don't have too many things going at once. You and I have both seen companies that all of a sudden they have so many new things going on that they lose their way. It's got to be methodical, planned, and purposeful.
Yep, yep, it's true. So that way, and that way, and there are so many reasons for that. We could have a whole nother episode on why that's the thing. I won't even start. I'm just gonna agree. Yes. All right, so summary thoughts then, Dad, too. We've been doing this for a few months now. We've gone over rates of change, we've gone over leading indicators, we've gone over the phases of the business cycle and the psychology of your staff and your business when you're in these different stages of the business cycle, and then also the psychology of your target audience and how you can use what they're going through to inform your own campaigns and your messaging so that way it resonates emotionally with them. We've talked about pricing strategies. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of the other things that we've talked about. We talked about, again, today, the new products. Last week was the timing of campaigns and how to use data to inform your future and how to build the predictable revenue engine using data along the user journey. I have some bullet points over here too for kind of just things that I don't think we've necessarily touched on in full, but we have in part was in making sure that marketing operations and finance are collaborating together in 2026 and every year for that matter. So having an integrated cross-functional team, auditing your tech stack to make sure you can complete the different steps that we've been recommending throughout the series. Allocating funds for agility. So that way you can adjust to market changes. So even though you may have been listening to us and put a plan into place for 2026, it doesn't mean that plan is going to stay put for the entire year. Things change. I used to be the type of person who's like, no, I built the plan. We're going to execute the plan, stick to the plan, until I then realized, no, every plan I built is born to die.
Yeah.
And I just need to be planning far enough ahead where I can make adjustments far enough ahead to account for those changes that come. Um, Setting quarterly goals and assigning responsibility, having clear KPIs and accountability across your team, and then creating a continuous loop of communication across your entire team. So that way you have a communication loop on how everything is going. You can continue to grow and learn as every month falls behind us and we keep moving forward. So those are kind of the thoughts that I had in summary for our series. Dad, what are yours?
I think that's a lot of summary. That's very good. I, what comes to mind is a this thing from a Vistage group I was at once. To do this, you need to be a leader who has that mindset, that visionary, but also methodical, which may mean it's two people who are working together. You're a visionary and a CEO who's actually making the clock work and all the rest of that. But if you're a CEO who says, no, we've always done it this way and it's been fine, we've been successful, um, you're probably at a point in your career where you should say, am I okay with this slowly winding down? Because as soon as you say, I'm okay, we're successful, you're going to start losing ground. And you won't notice it at first, but you are going to start losing ground. And if you're near the end of your career, maybe that's fine. It's not really fair to your employees, but maybe that's fine to you as the owner of the company. If you're not willing to take risks, because you and I are talking about taking some risks here, if you're not a leader who's willing to take risks, uh, it may be time to think about why not and whether you're doing justice to your company, doing right by your company.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that's a great closing thought for us. I'm excited to see what 2026 holds in store for you and I both and all of our listeners. And thank you to everyone for who's started joining us on this journey. And we look forward to continuing to have fun chit-chatting back and forth in 2026 and providing what insights we can along the way.
Enjoy your year.
Thank you, everyone.